I'm back. I hope you can hear me. This is Chip Towers of Dog Nation coming back to you with Towers Take on Facebook Live. I tried to come on a little bit earlier, having some technical difficulties. We've got some Band-Aids and duct tape out, and we think that you can hear me and see me okay now. Apologize for the difficulties before. The next big test will be seeing whether I can see your comments. It looks like I can. It looks like Danny Smith was first up on here. Hey, Danny says we good now. Y'all, I'm so sorry. It wasn't my fault, actually, but hey, technology is what it is. And it's a miracle, really a minor miracle. Think about it. Every day we can pick up our phones and talk to each other face to face. I am, of course, Chip Towers. I work for DogNation.com. I've been in Atlanta all week at SEC Football Media Days, and I'm back here at home, and welcome to my humble abode to bring you Towers Take, brought to you by Marco's Pizza, where right now you can enjoy their delicious double down pizza special, two topping pizzas for $6.99 a piece. And as Charles Winslet can tell you, who's on here like he usually is, thank you, Coach Winslet. That's a great deal, and it's great pizza, and that's why they're America's #1 pizza company. So we're on now, and a lot to talk about. We're going to cut it a little bit short. I'll wrap it up about 7:30. I'm really eager, more than anything, y'all. Hello, Andrew Belk from Raleigh. I'm really eager to answer your questions more than anything. Mike Griffith and I have been providing, kind of stand-up updates every afternoon after we wrapped up SEC Media Days. He's gone back to Knoxville and will be gathering his things and selling his house. And I got some of his stuff in my garage here as he makes the transition to Athens, and we all make the transition to the season. Thank you, Tony Jackson, Wyatt Bridges from Wheeler County, Georgia. Beautiful country there. Charlie Little Tunichi Silas is here, and so is Justin and Kayla Lott. I'm going to open with this. Nick Lurch says, I'm proud of Kirby Smart at SEC Media Days. And, I am too, I guess, as far as that goes. I thought Kirby did a great job at SEC Media Days. You can tell he's in year 3. I think, year 1, he's like anybody else. There were 6 new coaches, well, actually 5, not counting Dan Mullen, who's representing a new school, that were introduced at SEC Media Day. You can kind of tell when the new guys are there. It's a big environment. It's a huge room, a lot of media, and a lot of coaches are kind of nervous with it. Carlos Cardoza, so glad you're here, Carlos, as you always are. Greg Pelago as well. Thank you. And, you can tell when they're nervous. Kirby was relaxed, clearly had a message to bring, which was basically pressure. Pressure is a privilege. I guess that'll be the catchphrase for 2018. I like it, I guess. Hello, Mike Mazells. I hear Hal Love, a lot of the regulars. I appreciate it. And so we should be back in the rotation. We'll get some of these technical things worked out between now and the next couple of weeks before we get down and dirty. We know that Georgia's preseason camp will open on August 2nd. The first practice we'll be able to go to as media members will be on August 3rd, and there'll probably be a media day then. Hello, Reginald Johnson, checking in from the Colony, Texas. Tony Jackson wants to know, how do y'all vote? Actually, it's an interesting thing. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Cox media policy is that we don't vote on such things. But, I have my own ideas. I'll have our own list, and I'll run it in the coming days and weeks. And you can see some great pictures that our producers, Michael Carvel and Andrew Asford, are putting up there of Kirby Smart. Clearly one of the biggest, baddest personalities in the SEC right now. A lot of respect. He was being shown by the fellow scribes in the league and the fellow coaches. A lot of nice things said about Kirby by other coaches, including today Will Muschamp. And I thought Kirby and Georgia comported themselves quite well. They were represented by Terry Godwin, Jonathan Ledbetter, and J.R. Reed, which I thought made a nice sort of mixture of J.R. Reed, the transfer, who came in after his college career had begun, and certainly Jonathan Ledbetter, who's overcome a lot of obstacles to be a leader like he is now, and then Terry Godwin, your resident five-star, who is really stepping into a leadership role with the Bulldogs. He was a good bit of a leader last year, never minding one-handed catches in South Bend. So those guys made a good impression with their smart suits and sharp-colored bow ties, and I thought Georgia looked very, very good. Jennifer Korn is in here. She's a Gator hater, even though she lives in Sarasota, Florida. I love it down there in Sarasota, Jennifer. It's a beautiful area of the Gulf Coast, and a little bit of a secret. We actually have Luke Williams here from Fort Payne, Alabama. Tell me what you want to know, basically, and I'll talk until I see some good questions. I mean, today South Carolina was up. Nick Saban was up yesterday. There was a lot of talk about Jeremy Pruitt. I'm interested to see if you guys think there was too much talk about Jeremy Pruitt. I mean, we all wrote a lot, but that was obviously a very big talking point, thanks to Aaron Murray and David Pollock's comments on it. And then I weighed in on my own on a Towers take there and gave my own impressions. I think probably Jeremy Pruitt has come a long way himself in terms of some of the things that he did while he was at Georgia. Some of his personality traits, I'm sure, have been those rough edges have been smoothed over some. They better be before he steps in to the washing machine that is the SEC football season. If you're not good and sturdy, you're going to come out with faded colors and shrunk up, and it'll be interesting how he does. There's a lot of challenges in front of Tennessee this year. I do think that Jeremy Pruitt is a good coach. I think this is a guy that, if he were coaching in high school, would be really tough to beat, because he knows what good players look like and knows what to do to them. But it's a little bit what to do with them. But there's a lot more to it than that in college football. It's not just about schmoozing donors and getting along with support staff and everything else. It's doing things the right way and treating people the right way of all levels. Mike Mizell wants to know simply what do I think about the team this year. And, it's always fun. I do enjoy this part of SEC Media Days because we live in such a tunnel vision world now. I mean, even you guys, you're on Dog Nation all the time, and you're talking about and reading about your team. And I'm the same way. I'm trying to provide you that content. I am, and Justin Tell is, and BA and everybody. But the fact of the matter is that you have numerous people, numerous teams that you're not able to pay a lot of attention to. So that was the best thing for me, was learning a little bit more about South Carolina, which I still agree and think is going to be a whale of a tough game for Georgia. And I absolutely think Florida might be tougher than a lot of people originally thought. I think Dan Mullen's going to make a lot of difference there. But as far as Tennessee and Jeremy Pruitt, I do think there's a talent deficiency there that's going to take them a minute to catch up. Florida, too, probably, and that's why I think tomorrow when the votes come out, you'll see Georgia as a runaway favorite in the SEC. Josh Cravey wants to know if I think Justin Fields will get redshirted. No, I don't. In fact, Kirby all but assured that. I mean, that's a crazy proposition. I know there's a new redshirt rule, and you have 4 games to play around with, but I just think Justin Fields in this day and age, as Kirby alluded to, is got to get ready to play. They got to get him ready to play. He's got to be ready to go in there in case something happens to Jake Fromm. I don't think he's going to beat out Jake Fromm in preseason camp. He may beat him out during the season if he gets on the field and proves to be a better player, but that's going to be hard to do, as you might see in the story that's on Dog Nation now. I talked to Greg McElroy, SEC Network, former Alabama national championship winning quarterback. He loves Jake Fromm. He likes everything about Jake Fromm. He gave the nod to Jarrett Stidham as the best quarterback in the SEC, which is a pretty good argument this year, but he loves Jake Fromm. And so, I think there's absolutely no shot that Justin Fields gets redshirted this year, even if he plays only sparingly in 4 games. And, I don't think Georgia will try to preserve his eligibility or anything like that. I mean, it's just too important of a position. And that's why Kirby Smart said what he did. Patrick Neesmith wants to know who the surprise team is in the SEC. Patrick, I think that'll probably be Alabama. I don't think anybody's expecting anything out of Alabama this year, but I think they'll actually field a pretty good team. I'm just kidding, of course, because I know Patrick Neesmith to be an Alabama fan. He's also a Georgia fan, and he lives here in the Athens area, and I know him personally, and I appreciate him, his friendship, and that he comes on here and listens to my takes on Facebook Live. But no, surprise teams, I think Florida could be a surprise team, and the reason is just I do see Dan Mullen as a little bit of a quarterback whisperer, as they call it, and I think he's going to be great for Felipe Franks down there. Felipe is not exactly the style of quarterback Mullen has won big with. That would be Tim Tebow and Dak Prescott, big, thick guys. But Felipe Franks is 6'6", 210 or 219 pounds. Something like he's skinny for as tall as he is. I'm sure he'll do what he can to beat him up. But I think he knows what he's doing. Hal loves this. Stidham will lead the league in sacks. He holds the ball too long. That was certainly his issue early in the year last year, but he kind of got it straightened out at the end. But that's definitely a weakness of Stidham, getting rid of the football. And I got to be honest with you, I have not looked closely into Auburn's offensive line, but I do believe they brought a lot of those offensive players back. They brought a lot of their team back here. There's a good shot of Felipe Franks. He's a big, tall kid who just looked lost last year, quite frankly, and I think Dan Mullen will help him. James Crunk thinks Fields should play in every game. I don't argue with that necessarily. I mean, that's kind of what Georgia did with DJ Shockley, and a little bit in 2002, but certainly a lot more so in 3, 4, and 5. I think those situations are absolutely parallel. I did have a chance to talk to DJ Shockley some down in Atlanta, and real happy for DJ. If you didn't get to see it, he's actually going to be doing color commentary. Going to be a color analyst on the SEC Network's broadcast of SEC games. So he's going to be doing either the 12 o'clock or 4 o'clock game, vice versa, opposite of Matt Stinchcomb and his group. So that's a couple of Georgia guys there. Troy Jackson believes Mullen finishes number 2, and I think there's a good shot of that. So everybody's going to pick South Carolina second. I think, well, not everybody, but I think South Carolina ultimately will be picked second in the East. And I am not kidding. I know you guys are longtime Georgia fans. Know this, that is going to be a whale of a game in Columbia, second week of the season, SEC opener for both teams. It always is when Georgia plays over there, even when Georgia has great teams like they had 2002, 2004, 2007, 2008, 2012. All those teams were very, very good, top 5 ranked, top 10 ranked, and either lost or fought for their life and barely came out with wins in Columbia. That fan base, and I know this because I have a bunch of family that went to the University of South Carolina, lives in Columbia and Blythewood and Lexington and those areas around there, and they love Georgia. Georgia's a big rival. And conversely, Georgia doesn't return to favor. Georgia doesn't look at South Carolina as a big one, a big favorite like that, a big rival. I'm sorry, I was distracted by Charles Kaiser's comment that Ben Cleveland is bench pressing cars yet, but more than anything, it's making me realize I didn't have my Ben Cleveland bell ready to go, and I apologize for that. Al Love, seems like a lot of players from Florida gave up some bulletin board material. That was interesting. There was also, today, he actually said, I left before the South Carolina players got on the podium, so I had to get out of town and take care of some personal business before I got back home. And one of the South Carolina players, 100% guaranteed a victory, and I think one of his teammates 100% backed his 100% guarantee. you know, I shrug my shoulders at all those things. I'm always surprised when coaches allow their players to do that, but it really doesn't matter. I mean, you kind of course, if you're a player on the team, I would hope you 100% believe that you're going to win a game. That's your job to believe that internally, or else you're not going to win. So, yeah, and Tony Jackson is go on Dog Nation. It's a good chance for me to rub my nose anytime it's itching. Go on Dog Nation. I did a story about that game. So I went through and kind of quantified what Georgia had done in games in Columbia. You know, in the 2000s, since the year 2000, I think they're 5-4, and actually trailing the overall score in those games, and you know, had some great contests over there. In particular, the toughest contest has come when it was the SEC opener, regardless of the type of team that South Carolina fielded or the type of team that Georgia fielded. Yeah, so Scott Kirkpatrick's talking about Frank is not a smart quarterback who makes a lot of bad decisions. See, that's part of the coaching, I believe. A lot of that has to do, that was one of the problems with Jake Bentley at South Carolina, that they're trying to get worked out with Brian McClendon, the former Bulldog and interim head coach, only undefeated coach in Georgia's history, taking over as offensive coordinator for the South Carolina Gamecocks. They're talking about simplifying things. Kurt Roper was the offensive coordinator before, and there's some intimation that they had just too much for him trying to figure out what they were trying to do. So I would imagine look for Brian McClendon to really spread that out and try to get them going with fewer progressions, fewer options. Even though you're seeing a lot of option spread football, it's not triple option stuff. They're not trying to figure a bunch of things out. They usually have, you know, one option, and that's usually pass or run, and you have one option of either one of those. Throw to this guy or toss it to that guy, or perhaps keep it yourself now and then, though I don't think Jake Bentley's going to do that very often. Jake Bentley, one of the good quarterbacks in the league. It's one of the themes down there is you're the quarterback in the league. Let's see. Scott Kirkpatrick says the O-line dogs have, we should rush for 200 a game, even with two back and bad knees. That is, Georgia's averaging 200 a game. They're going to win 12 games. I'll tell you that right now. I like Georgia's offensive line, even though, you know, it's more than a minor rebuild. I mean, I think Andrew Thomas is going to be great, but moving to right to left is not a small thing. But he's made it look like that so far anyway. But they haven't played any major teams. And in South Carolina, you've got a really good defensive lineman. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He's huge, 6'5" or 6'6", JUCO transfer last year, really coming to his own this year. And they got a great middle linebacker, T.J. Brunson. So they're going to be, but the rest of the defense is kind of being rebuilt. I think it's a hugely important game. If you go back and look, if Georgia drops that early one, Will Muschamp said today that that's not going to decide the East, and it won't. But, man, it's tough to come back if you lose that head-to-head early in the year to a team that is contending for the conference championship. There's Big Andrew, Big AT, playing right tackle last year against Notre Dame. Really an amazing season. I don't know if you guys fully appreciate what he did as a true freshman last year, true freshman All-America, same as Jake Fromm, and him moving over to the left is a big part of Georgia's equation. Georgia's got offensive linemen just spilling out of the bus now. They're all big. Big Sam Pittman keeps loading them up and bringing them to town. That's been the biggest difference in Georgia under Kirby Smart is retrofitting that offensive line with some really big guys. But it's not just they have big guys. Georgia has big guys, but they have so many of them that you're finding out who can play in the competition. You're not even talking about people like Notori Johnson anymore, who may or may not factor in at right or left guard. But, you know, you seem to hear more about, you know, Jamari Sawyer and Cade Mays and certainly Solomon Kinley and Big Ben Cleveland. And those guys are going to weigh in on that situation as well. So Georgia in a good situation on the O-line. Same can't be said on D-line, and I am, quite frankly, mystified by Georgia's poor defensive line recruiting overall. I don't think Georgia's necessarily going to be poor on the D-line, but you're going to be thin on the D-line. So, you know, you're going to have to be well-conditioned, number one. You won't be able to rotate as much as you did last year, and you're also going to have to be, lucky with the injuries like Georgia was last year, because if you haven't suffered any major injuries on the defensive line, you're really going to be in a world of hurt. What else? LSU, LSU, there's a lot of trouble in Tiger Town. A lot depends on what LSU can do this season. That was a fascinating thing. I talked to some different people. Georgia had such an unbelievable schedule last year, traveling on the road, and they, of course, play at South Carolina, at Missouri, and at LSU early in the year. That at LSU, there are thousands of you Georgia fans. In fact, let me know on here. Give me a thumbs up, or let me see some comments about how many of you guys are definitely going to Baton Rouge for Georgia LSU on October 13th, I think it is. If you are, you better make sure you have your tickets. You better be figuring it out, because so I just learned recently, I think Georgia's only getting maybe 6,000 tickets from LSU as it is. That's just that's been the trend in the league now. Everybody is tit for tat when it comes to how many you provide for the opposing fan base, and it used to be 10,000 automatically. Now it's down to 6. So there's not many tickets there, so it means you're going to have to get them out of the LSU fan base or, StubHub or where have you. And I definitely think the Georgia fans, I know I've heard of thousands and thousands of you heading to New Orleans in advance of that game. In fact, I'm going to be there in advance of the game, covering the scene for Dog Nation. But I'm just telling you now, get out there and look for your tickets while you can, and because it might not be easy. And Ed Orgeron, God bless him. I didn't understand a word he said at the podium. No, I'm kidding. But he is, it's an incredible, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. But, in fact, he just has not been very good as a head coach everywhere he's been. He's the worst coach Ole Miss ever had, and I just don't think it was a very good hire. And so it's a big year for him. And, one of his big moves, in the offseason was to go from Matt Canada as offensive coordinator to Steve Ensminger, who you guys may remember from the University of Georgia in the 1990s. One of Eric Zier's great friends to this day, and him and Eric Zier were a great team at Georgia. And he's basically doing the same thing at LSU that he was asked to do at Georgia under Ray Goff, which was to spread out the offense and get the passing game coordinated and spread out for a quick passing game. And that's what Ed Orgeron said, as far as I can understand. 4 or 5 wide receivers, which none of that, goes naturally for him. He's a defensive-minded coach who'd rather run the football and play tough defense. And he kind of handcuffed Matt Canada last year to that end, and they need to get their offensive their offensive quarterback situation squared away over there. Let's see here what else we got. Watch your comments there for a minute. Who's the latest one here? LSU ticket, according to Bobby Piper, thank you, Bobby, for weighing in. The LSU ticket office said UGA sections were 402 and 404 and the 600s above. Yeah, they ain't great seats. So if you have not been to Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium, I highly recommend you make the trip. I know you hear about it all the time, Death Valley, Saturday night game. I don't think the time has been announced for that one yet. 95% expect it to be a night game. That's not a guarantee with the SEC and the SEC network, but a lot of it will be dependent on how LSU does before that game. And they have a tough schedule, by the way. I don't know if I have it here. I had that schedule thing in my pocket. Let me see if I do. LSU has a really tough schedule coming in. Let's see here. LSU, opens with Miami in Arlington, then Southeast Louisiana, then Auburn, Louisiana Tech, Ole Miss, Florida the week before they play Georgia. Georgia comes in having played Tennessee and Vanderbilt back-to-back before it goes to Baton Rouge, and it gets a week off before it goes into the Florida game. And so we'll see how that goes. But you have a really tough lineup, and I tell you what, Auburn and Tennessee have tough schedules too. Georgia does not, by comparison. Their schedule's not getting much national attention on it. But Tennessee, opens with West Virginia, which will be a top 10 team, I think, maybe top 5, and has Florida, Georgia, off week, Auburn, Alabama in the middle of the year. So they play Florida, Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama in successive games, and that's going to be really, really interesting. Hello, Jay Clark. Yeah, Murray's comments about Pruitt, I weighed in on that early in the thing. I hope you appreciated our coverage on that. Me and Mike Griffith both wrote a lot about it just because everybody kept weighing in on it, whether it was Mark Rick from ACC meetings or Hudson Mason from Radio Row or, David Pollack or Aaron Murray. And the fact of the matter is Jeremy Pruitt did not comport himself well here as a team member at the University of Georgia. I wrote about that, and that's how we're safe about it. I know a lot more than I've written, and I've written a lot that I know, and it's not, this ain't made-up stuff. He may have changed completely. He may have come a long way, but that's what those guys are talking about. Just he's very disrespectful of his head coach, and a lot of the things he did might have been necessary, but there's a way to go about things, and that's where, it'll be feast or famine, I think, with him as a head coach at Tennessee, because he'll have fewer checks and balances. At Tennessee as head coach, he'll have Philip Fulmer as an AD, who I don't think is going to be much of a filter, based on what I know from Philip Fulmer, and then the chancellor, who should have more important things than worry about the football coach. So he'll be free to do what he wants, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing sometimes in football. We'll keep a close eye on that going forward. But Aaron Murray spoke his mind. I like that about Aaron. Aaron's a media member now, and that's what you have to do. Somebody asks you something, you got to tell them, and they can see through things. If you're not, if you don't take a side or give your an unabashed opinion, people will recognize. Hey, Lee Bonner, y'all, is checking in from Minden, Nevada, and thank you, Lee. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you love my show. If you guys are just tuning in, we're a little bit late tonight. We had some technical difficulties earlier. We'll have all that worked out, and I need to wrap it up here. I've not even unpacked my suitcases from coming back from Atlanta and SEC Media Days, and Missouri and South Carolina up today, and then we had Saban and Jeremy Pruitt yesterday, and actually we have a lot more coming to you on Dog Nation. Mike Griffith has a couple more stories he's going to file. He put in the bank, as we say, before he went back to Nashville, and he's busy in the interim here making the move to Athens to help provide the best coverage areas out there for Dog Nation, of your Dog Nation, and we're looking forward to doing that. I got a bunch of fun series that I'm working on. Those start rolling out, especially in August. We're not there yet. Georgia opens practice August 3rd, but, we never stop. We're year-round here at Dog Nation, and we'll keep bringing the coverage to you. By the way, let me thank, again, Marco's Pizza for sponsoring Towers Take on Facebook Live. And as you know, if you listen to this show, you can get two topping pizzas for $6.99 a piece at Marcos.com. It is America's #1 pizza company, and the amazing thing about them, set you up that profile on their website, and you can click on there and order your pizza anytime you get the feeling. I'm getting the feeling right now. Haven't had dinner yet. Been a long day. I could eat. Mark Calicchio says I could eat a whole Marco's pizza right now, and I could too, and I think I'm going to. So for all the guys back in the studio, Michael Carvel and Andrew Asford, thank you so much for all the amazing work you did tonight and get us back on. And, Mike Griffith, Bobby Piper will have a show on the regular this week, and we'll have one together during the fall, I'm sure. But for everybody at Dog Nation and for Marco's Pizza, the America's #1 pizza company, I want to thank you for hanging out with me here on Facebook Live, and we will see you this time next week. Bye, y'all.